Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video I'm going to do the cozy coffee mug tag. I was tagged in a video by Pat at Book Chat with Pat 8668. To properly credit the creator of this video, I'm just going to read what Pat said. This is the cozy coffee mug tag, an original tag created by Jen at Literary Love 123. Pat was tagged by her friend BADisRad2 at BADisRad2 Jen's original tag video, and she has a link for the video, in BADisRad's video. I'll try to tag those videos, but I'm not very good at tagging videos. It doesn't seem to work very well for me. But you will have the tags for each of those two creators and Pat as well. So if you would like to watch their videos, you'll be able to do so. This tag has 8 prompts. I should say up front too, I'm not actually a coffee drinker, so we'll just put that out there. The first tag is Hex the Patriarchy. Share your favorite women authors. In answer to this, I'm not going to go to a couple of modern ones, which might be, but because they're fairly new to me, and I think maybe you need to sit on this for a little while before you can make choices of this nature, I'm going to choose Yasmin Galenorn and Anne Rice, simply because I've read a lot of books from each of them. I haven't read a Yasmin Galenorn book for a little while, but I've probably read about 40. And I did reread Anne Rice's the first 3 books of the Vampire Chronicles, Interview with the Vampire Lestat, and Queen of the Damned. So these are just 2 women authors that I've read a lot of in my reading journey. The second prompt is, never underestimate a woman who reads Stephen King books. Share your favorite fictional women characters. Kind of think maybe this is perhaps by that title intended to be horror books, but I'm just going to take it more broadly and share some of my favorite women characters. First is Chloe Green and I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. Chloe Green is a student who's a senior in a Southern Christian school. She's a lesbian, so naturally that creates some issues in said school. She's in a battle for valedictorian with Shara Wheeler, who just happens to be the daughter of the principal of that school. Just a character I liked a lot. Second is Imogen Scott. Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertelli. Imogen is the straight friend to her 2 lesbian friends, and also the straight older sister to her younger sister who was a lesbian. For her, it is the period between high school and college. Just another character I like a lot. Perhaps the strongest choice of all of these, because I've read a ton of books with her in it, is Nancy Drew in the Nancy Drew Diary series. Probably read about 25 of those books, which is by far more than any of the other characters where I mentioned, which actually each of the other characters are just in one book that I've read. The fourth is Samantha Montgomery in A House with Good Bones. Samantha is an arachnoarchaeologist in her early 30s. She's really smart, but it's more than anything, it's her kind of wry observations on things. It's just amusing to hear the way she thinks and views the world. And the fifth is Sunny Song, and Sunny Song Will Never Be Famous. Sunny is a student who lives in California. She is forced to go to a digital detox camp in Idaho. And as you can imagine, it's quite the culture shock going from California to Idaho. The third prompt is Edgar Allan Poe. Share your favorite Gothic book or story. I have to admit up front that I'm not quite sure what would qualify as Gothic. I suspect some of the modern books I read would qualify as Gothic. But for this one, I'm going to just fall back on a couple of safe choices that I have read both of them recently. And the first is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is the most solid choice, I guess, because I've read the book 3 times, which is rare for me. I have not read any book more than 3 times. And the second is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I just read that book not long ago for the first time. I thought I read it before, but upon reading it I realized that what I thought my memory of the book was actually a movie or more that I had seen, because what I remembered wasn't in the book. But it was a really good book. And I read the original text of it too. The fourth prompt is Swiftea. Name your author by authors. First is Emily Henry. I've read 2 of her books recently and really love them. I do have one other book of hers to read, and I wouldn't auto buy any further books until I read the existing book. But I would say, at least recently, I would probably consider her my favorite author, my modern reading, and then which is in the last 2 or 3 years. I think Casey McQuiston will likely become one of my favorite authors. As I said in the answer in one of the previous prompts, I Kissed Shara Wheeler. That's one of her books that I read. I really liked it. I do have 2 other of her books, and so I would read those books first before I get her most recent book, which just came out. And the final one is really kind of a stretch because I'm only partway through the first book of reading hers, but it's Sarah J. Maas. I'm currently reading A Court of Thorns and Roses from her, and I'm really liking it. And I'm certainly going to get more of her books. She's had a fair amount of books out though, so I would have to read, in my mind, I'd have to read or borrow actually all of those books before any new book would become an auto buy. And a lot of those books are quite long books too. But I could see her, if I was ever able to catch up, becoming an auto buy. Which sounds strange just on about 40% of a book, but that's how much I'm liking the book. The fifth prompt is Camp Crystal Lake. Share a book that makes you feel nostalgic. Another book I'm reading besides Court of Thorns and Roses is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. There's just a little bit of that made me feel nostalgic. There's a little boy, I believe he's 8 at the time. It talks about him doing stuff like whittling, playing baseball, exploring the woods. And that kind of made me nostalgic for my youth. Not that I played baseball, but just playing sports with friends and whittling, exploring the woods, things like that, just childhood things like that. The other book is It by Stephen King. I really think Stephen King writes kids great. People do have issues with some of the other characters, some certain other characters, types that he portrays, and that point could be argued. They could provide some good evidence of that, I think. But I think he really does a great job with kids. He doesn't sugarcoat it either. The kids maybe would get bullied or their parents might abuse them or something like that. But he also shows the kind of the joys of childhood. And in it, a big part of it, it's a horror novel, of course, but is the friendship, the friend group that is there. And that's friend group is what makes me kind of nostalgic just thinking about that. So those 2 books are 2 good examples, I think, of books that made me feel nostalgic, in my case for my youth. The 6th prompt is Happy Halloween. Share a holiday-themed book that you recommend. For this prompt, I have a whole bunch of books, but most of them I'm just kind of okay with. But they are holiday-themed, and some people might like to read them. The first is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie. This is a book that I was just kind of okay with. It's a Poirot mystery, and there is a murder at a Halloween party. But if you like Poirot, this is Poirot in retirement. So he's got a lot of other tread in his tires, but people might like it. The second is Gusty Lovers and Cadavers, Rain of Sun Mystery number 2 by Ann Artan. This book is set a little before Christmas. This is a book actually that I enjoyed quite a lot. My only kind of thing I would want to make people aware of is I think it's self-published, and as such it could maybe do with a little more editing, and you're probably going to notice that, but the basic story I thought was really good. Now for my third answer, I'm going to use the definition of holiday as going on vacation. In other words, as I'm going on a holiday as opposed to like Christmas or Halloween or Easter or something like that. And that is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. This is a book I liked a lot. The protagonist goes for a summer vacation in Italy, which you could kind of tell by the title. But it's quite an enjoyable romance. The next book is Something Wicked This Way Comes. This book starts a little before Halloween. I read this book years ago and really liked it. The last year or two I read it again and I wasn't as sold on it. I didn't quite enjoy it as much. But I think it is a very good book, I think. Perhaps the first time you like it best. And it is set a little before Halloween. This book actually could be the answer to the previous question too, because there's two young boys, 12, 13 going on. They're 12 going on 13. And a lot of like boyhood things that a lot of boyhood things that adults might be nostalgic about come up in this book, and especially maybe part of it is kind of at that age maybe you're leaving some stuff behind, which is a little sad. The fifth one is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Really nothing needs to be said, but if you just saw one of the many movies you might want to read the book too. It's not that long. And the sixth is The Nutcracker by Alexandre Dumas. Same with that. I mean, I think most people know The Nutcracker, but you may not have read the book. The seventh prompt is This Mug Contains Magic. Share a book you enjoy that is outside of your comfort zone, typical genre. This book is The Children of Athena by Charles Freeman. This book is a story of, I believe it was 20 Greek intellectuals of the period a little before Christ, BCE. I was only aware of, I think, one of them before. It was quite interesting. Because I didn't know much about Greek history, the last time I probably read about it was in high school, and I can't remember how much depth we went into it. We probably spent more time talking about Greek mythology than we did about their actual history, but I can't be sure of that. But this book was out of my comfort zone, and I quite enjoyed it. I had to accept that there was stuff they talked about which I wasn't familiar with, but it's quite interesting to me. I'm certainly glad I read it. It was a 4.5 star for me, which is high for a nonfiction book that isn't a memoir, autobiography, or biography. The eighth prompt is Tag Some Bookish Friends. So I'm going to do on tagging. I have been hesitant to tag people at points because I don't want to miss anybody, and also I don't want people to think I have an expectation of them doing it. What I decided to do is, like, if you don't want me to tag you, just please reply in the comments and I won't. Or if you would like me to tag you and I fail to do so, please reply in the comments for that too. Until I see either of those things in my comments, this list is probably going to be mostly the people I'm going to tag. John at Disquieting Dragons -LH3ZM, Suey at Suey's Book Banter, Nix at Nix Reads, Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, Smitty at Books Smitten, Kayla V at Reading with Kayla V, Nigel at Reading Ideas, _UZ9XK, Roy at Roy Reads Everything, Justin at Triumphal Reads, Melanie at Melina Milano, 8833, Fred at Read by Fred, and all these names I'm tagging, their screen names, and the people I mentioned earlier involved with this tag will all be in the description of the video. And I'd also like to tag anyone who's watching this video. If I didn't tag you, if you'd like to do this, please do the tag, whether a video of your own or whether you want to answer one or more of the prompts in my comments. As I said above, if I missed you, please let me know if you'd like to be tagged in future videos, and I'll try to remember. It might take me a couple times, but I should get it down and I would tag you in future videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. I hope you're having a wonderful reading week, and hope you have a wonderful week in general.